Hey, this is Dan Glaun with MassLive. I'm here with Nick O'Malley. We have just completed judging for the Best of Mass Sushi competition, and we're going to take you through our top 10 sushi restaurants in Massachusetts. So Nick, why don't you kick us off?
All right, so we split the top 10 nominees between Eastern Mass and Western Mass, and day one of our judging actually ended with a place that ended up coming in 10th place, and that's Minado Restaurant in Natick. Minado is a bit of an outlier in terms of the restaurants that we went to because it is a buffet, and that kind of broke the mold because a lot of the places we went to are very, like, they're more the traditional mold. You get a roll there, you get the a la carte nigiri roll. At Minado, you can just go to town whenever you want. And what do you think of it?
Yeah, if you want a very large amount of pretty good sushi, Minado is the place to go. I would sort of phrase this like sushi comfort food. Like you've got your classic, California rolls, your spicy tuna rolls, as long as a few more adventurous options. They had sort of spicy Mexican roll with some jalapeno. That was pretty good. You got a hand roll, which looked interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those where it takes the nori seaweed roll and it kind of wraps it up like a crepe, like a cone, and there's jam, all the sushi rice, and all the a lot of salmon and cucumber and a lot of other sushi ingredients in there, and you get kind of like a crepe wrap in there, and you can kind of mow down on that. I liked it because I like the taste of seaweed. Dan's not the biggest fan of seaweed, so he wasn't as big on it.
Yeah.
But the one thing I did like was that they did have some more creative options. They had this thing called the snow roll, where there's a lot of mayo and crab stuff. They had a barbecue roll, which is this kind of barbecue sauce on a regular maki roll. At each place we went to, we normally stuck to 3 or 4 types of sushi. Because Minado was so different, we kind of branched out a little bit more. We stuck to the basic, the spicy tuna and the California roll, and kind of stuck with those as the kind of benchmarks, and then kind of branched off from there. Even with the other types we tried, we still thought it didn't match up to the places that are very much more focused on quality and making this one single serving great.
Yeah, and Minado's probably not going to blow you away. If you are afraid of the word sushi and buffet in the same sentence, you really don't have to be. It all seemed really well taken care of, well presented. The sushi seemed to be swapped out regularly, and it didn't look picked over or anything like that. Definitely seemed like a solid option if you just want to go out and be able to get as wide a variety of sushi as possible. So that brings us to number 9, Ke Lau in Chicopee.
Ke Lau is definitely the oldest of all of the establishments we went to. They've been around since the 50s, I believe, and they have been long enough to be at the point where sushi was really coming as an exotic food. They added to the restaurant's offerings, and they took it off, and they added again in the last 15 years. And they have an interesting choice. We tried 4 different things. 2 of them involved crunchy tempura, which we were pretty big fans of.
Yeah, they had a paradise roll and a kamikaze roll, both of which were really, really solid. You had this crunch from the shrimp tempura, as well as a whole bunch of sauces and other elements that gave it a sort of strong flavor. And then they had the TNT roll.
The TNT roll.
This thing is a monster. I'll let Nick talk about it first because I think he liked it a little bit more than I did.
We agreed on most things during this entire judging trip. This is the one thing that tore us apart a little bit. The TNT roll, it comes out like this big log of sushi rolls and then a bunch of stuff on top, including a layer of melted cheddar cheese, which is weird. It's not a normal sushi thing. It is, unsurprisingly, the only time we saw any sort of melted cheese on sushi during this whole trip. I kind of like the sweet sauce and the cheddar. Actually, the reason I liked it so much is probably because I didn't pick up the fish as much as you did. You didn't like it as much.
Yeah, I don't know. Just melting a block of cheddar cheese on top of a sushi roll is not my personal idea of a good time. If that sounds like your ideal way of spending an afternoon, it is definitely for you. They also had a really good sort of citrusy tropical fruit roll, I believe, with some mango. And
the mango fusion?
The mango fusion, yeah, with mango, some seafood, and a kind of spicy sauce that I really enjoyed. Had a kind of nice mix of like fruity and spicy bite, so it was definitely good. And you can't really beat the decor either. All this 1950s tiki paraphernalia. Definitely sort of a fun place for a night out.
It's got its own ambience. It's kind of unique. It's old school.
Oh, it's super old school.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of places like the Ke Lau anymore.
No.
It's got staying power.
So you want to tell us about number 8, Nick?
Number 8 was Baba Sushi in Worcester. This is the favorite of our own Scott Croto, who's based in Worcester. He probably would have liked it a bit higher. We liked it too. A lot of these places, every place was great. Baba Sushi had its own take on a lot of things. It was a lot lighter. It was probably the most overall just refreshing of all of them.
For sure.
For example, the sashimi cucumber roll, which was 3 types of sashimi wrapped up in cucumber and then served on a sort of layer of mango salsa on a banana leaf, which is cool. It was a cool presentation. It was trickier to eat than most rolls because it was about yay wide. And it was thin and real light because it didn't involve any rice or anything. So it was basically sashimi just put in a boundary of cucumber. And I like that one.
Yeah, that was really good. Also, the highlight, I think, for both of us was the Tiger's Eye roll, which the restaurant's owner was happy enough to show us how to make. It's a sort of what looks like a kind of basic sushi roll with, I believe, salmon, maybe also some tuna in there. But then it is breaded in tempura and deep fried just for a few seconds, so you get that crunch while the fish is still raw inside. It was really good, warm, like way different than anything else we tried there. And I would definitely recommend that if you take a trip to Worcester to go to Baba.
Yeah, the tempura is just cooked. It's not like a full coating. It's like you actually get like stripes of coating, like a tiger, on the outside. So you have little stripes of tempura just sticking a little bit, and it adds a little bit of crunch. And there are actually 2 layers of seaweed involved. So you have the crunchy outside, the rice, and then way inside is all the goodiness of the fish. And it was a cool layering of textures, and I really dug it. We also tried the Dragon's Breath roll, was a really light, refreshing hot roll, and then they had a summer roll, which we were also big fans of.
Number 7 on our list was Osaka in Northampton. They gave us some really solid rolls to work with. Why don't you tell us what you liked?
Yeah, Osaka was really good because they gave us 3 different rolls that were good in 3 different ways. The first one we had was the Nobu roll, which I don't want to say it had a good fishy taste because fishy doesn't have a great connotation, but a nice smooth flavor from the fish, which was very fresh, and it had that very sort of a creamy flavor when it combines with the avocado on the inside. And the one that you were a fan of was the...
Yeah, that was the Tomo roll. So, as I discovered about myself in this trip, I really like sushi with mango. This had mango and a honey wasabi sauce that kind of gave this sweet and spicy kick. Like each flavor got sort of a moment to itself that I really enjoyed. And then your favorite was the other roll we got, the masa.
The masa roll. Another theme that kept coming up during the trip was the use of tempura, especially a shrimp tempura within a kind of, you need some more room, but a larger roll. The masa roll did a real good job of it because not only was it one of the few times where it involved shrimp tempura and it wasn't just the batter, you could actually taste the shrimp. You got a nice big layer of shrimp in there that you could really pick it up in the flavor, but it was also one of the better spicy rolls that we had. There were a lot of rolls that use spice or jalapeno and sriracha and just kind of threw spice at it. This one had a nice flavor that complemented the ingredients on the inside well and created a kind of 1-2 punch with the shrimp and the heat, and it was a good overall flavor, and I like that one the best there.
So before we get to number 6, some of the restaurants coming up on this list were doing some really experimental and crazy things with sushi, just ingredients that you would never think in a million years would be in a sushi roll. We're talking beef, we're talking squid ink foam, we're talking all kinds of
ricotta.
Garlic ricotta, just, stuff that's a little bit out there. And something I was worried about is the danger in that is you have this potential to have this kind of dad dabbing at a basketball game situation where it's just ill-advised and really embarrassing for everyone. But
they pulled it off.
Yeah, executed extremely well. And the first one to really do that was number 6, Yama Zakura in Northborough.
Yeah, Yama Zakura, when I first Googled it to research what is this place, was the first Google result was Yama Zakura Northborough. Yama Zakura Northborough, Lobster Bomb.
And Nick was instantly intrigued.
Okay, what's a Lobster Bomb? You had me at Lobster Bomb. The Lobster Bomb is sort of their signature dish. When we were there talking to the owner and the chefs, they said that they had folks coming in every Friday and downing like these 2 or 3 people just downing 10 of these rolls. And it's kind of a normal roll, normal maki roll in the seaweed, but what they do is they take a bunch of baked lobster that they take a very sizable amount of lobster and they bake it in their signature lemon cream sauce. So they're taking lobster and a really nice sauce that has a nice lemon flavor, nice buttery flavor. Hey, the 2 best things that go with lobster, bake it in that sauce, and then they just layer it across this whole row of sushi rolls. So you get this nice roll with this big helping of lobster with lemon and butter and all this goodness, and I didn't think it would work. It works.
Yeah, they also gave us a really nice selection of these sort of tuna appetizers that displayed even more creativity. They had these, what I'd phrase as sort of sushi nachos.
Sushi nacho sounds accurate.
Yeah, this sort of like tuna sashimi on a wonton cracker with some sauce on it that I thought was really refreshing and great. They had sort of a more conventional tuna sashimi with avocado drizzled in a sauce that was really good. And then there was the Belichick roll.
Oh, before the Belichick roll, the two tuna appetizers were part of the tuna trio, and they also had the wasabi tuna. It was a nice seared.
That's right, crusted with wasabi.
Yeah, a nice wasabi crust on there. So there's 3 really nice tuna appetizers. But those actually paled in comparison to, as you were saying, the Belichick roll, which is named after the Patriots coach because it takes maybe not the best players in sushi, but players that complement each other well and create a winning team. And I think it was a really corny way to kind of say a football coach inspired it, but I dug it because it took 3 different types of fish and they all complemented each other well. It was kind of like a fish bomb in the way that you got a lot of flavor, but it was a great roll.
Yeah, for sure. Another place that also took sort of an experimental approach with the sushi was Kaizen in Sturbridge. We both love this place a lot. So why don't you take us through what we got there?
Yeah, Kaizen was our first stop overall on the entire trip, so we were just kind of really excited to try some sushi. And the first thing we try involved sweet potato. It involved beef. It was wrapped in, the soy wrap, right? This one was the soy wrap.
Yep.
And it was great. I loved it. It was this big honkin', it was the G roll, and it wasn't even on the menu. It was
named after a customer of theirs.
Named after George, who just wanted something weird, and we were into it.
Yeah,
so
it was
right
delicious.
off the bat.
They were doing a lot of cool stuff with their wraps. Like as Nick said, they used a soy wrap on their summer roll, which was this really, really light, just sort of refreshing roll. They used this radish wrap, which had this paper-thin radish paper. So you're not getting this sort of like ocean or like salty taste of nori or seaweed. You're not getting this like heavy dose of rice. Just a really sort of refreshing combination of fish and vegetables there that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, it was one of the first instances where we saw where a sushi roll didn't have rice, and it didn't have nori or seaweed, which is kind of the 2 things you think of when you think of sushi. But as we saw from a lot of these places, they really broke the mold, and the results were delicious.
Absolutely. So number 4 on our list was Master Chef in South Hadley. We were both super impressed by this place. What sort of kicked it off for me in terms of being impressed was they also did this sort of like super light roll, the type of thing where if you are cutting carbs out of your diet, go ahead and eat this sushi. They call it the rock and roll. The chef, name of Chef Lewis, sort of intricately carved this cucumber into super thin slices, wrapped all the fish in it, plated it with some really light sauce. It's something you could just probably eat 10 of and, not regret it whatsoever. It was really, really great.
Yeah, it was similar to what we had at Baba Sushi. They did another cucumber wrap like this, but we liked the one at Master Chef better. It had a stronger overall flavor. I think a big reason why is because I really like the fish there, and one of the things they said off the bat was that they don't get their fish through a distributor. They go out twice a week to Boston, they pick out the fish, they look directly at what fish they're buying. And we were really lucky when we went there because towards the end of our visit, Chef Lewis broke out a 17-pound salmon, and we got to watch him just break it down, taking all the great parts of this fish. But this had this great fish fillet. He's like, hey, I just carved this off a fish 15 seconds ago. People at this restaurant are going to get it for dinner. And I think that's really cool, especially all the way out in South Hadley.
For sure. And they also had what was probably the best sort of traditional spicy roll that we encountered.
That was a firecracker.
Yeah, it did a lot similar to the other ones we were talking about at Baba and some of the other places, but it seemed to just sort of get the balance a little bit better. The jalapeno was sliced thinner, the hot sauce wasn't overpowering, so you could really sort of taste what was going on in the roll without just being consumed by the spice.
I think it was the kind of ultimate expression of like the spicy tuna, because it was one roll that pulled off having jalapeno on it, and it had the spiciness and it had the fish, and it hit you twofold, and it was one of the best rolls that did that best, I think.
For sure. So why don't you tell us about number 3?
Number 3 is one I consider the best hidden gem, because I have a friend that lives nearby, and I'd driven past it, but I hadn't heard anyone talk about Blue Water in Ludlow. It's a small place. If you go inside, visually, it's not gonna... I could mix it up with a number of different sushi restaurants I've been to over my life, but they are doing some really cool, innovative things in that restaurant. They had something that I can't believe I didn't realize didn't exist. They had a sushi that was fish inside of fish. They had a tuna tartare wrapped in salmon with a little toppings on top. They put it in a little spoon, and they call it the salmon spoonful. And you just take the spoon, pop it in your mouth, and it's just full of flavor. You get the soft, creamy tuna tartare, and you got a great salmon on the outside. I thought it was a great idea.
It was a great idea. They had a lot of great ideas. Another sort of variation on the spicy roll that we got there, which is probably my favorite, took a really sort of different take on what you can do with that sort of thing, where instead of putting hot sauce or a sliced pepper on top, they sort of integrated cracked peppercorns like into the rice on the outside of the dish, which completely transformed it.
Yeah.
It seemed like the flavor was sort of way more integrated into the actual roll itself as opposed to just sort of sitting on top. That was their pepper tuna roll. We really enjoyed that one. And the Phoenix roll was also really good.
Yeah, that was one of the many rolls that just had a lot of stuff thrown on it, but it was one of the instances where it was a big, intricate roll, but it just had flavors flying out in different directions, and I really liked what they did there. Overall, they took a lot of the very fundamental concepts that each of these sushi places had. They had the same fish, the rice, the heat, but they really interwove them in different ways to create flavors that a lot of the competitors didn't have, and I really appreciated that from them.
Yeah, another place that really sort of exemplified that sort of innovative spirit as well was Aya, sort of right next to the campus of Mount Holyoke. They were doing a lot of really interesting stuff. These two relatively young brothers are the sushi chefs there, who, they have Thai influences in their cooking. They're throwing in meat and potatoes, maybe not potatoes, but definitely meat.
Yep.
A whole lot of stuff you might not expect to see in sushi. So you were a big fan of the
Bumble Crunch. Yeah, this one, when I bit in, I immediately had the sensation of like it was biting into a honeycomb and an overall pretty sweet roll. It had instead of the tempura on the inside, it had the tempura on top. So it really let you get the full body of the tempura. You got the whole sushi roll, and then you got the crunch from the tempura, and it had a great overall flavor. It's one of the best flavors we had in the whole contest, and I really recommend it in general to anyone that is sort of a newcomer to sushi or doesn't really like the very fishy flavors. It's a great introductory course because it doesn't have the traditional sushi flavors, but it's a great way to just get familiar with the format. Another great idea they had was the cannonball roll, which was one of the best integrations of Western flavors into a sushi roll we saw.
Yeah, for sure. So basically what they told us is they were trying to make this cheesy ramen, and they had some ricotta and decided, hey, why not? So what we have now is a sushi roll with marinated beef and garlic ricotta on top of some more conventional sushi elements, and it was so good. You get that like sort of like heavy kind of savory umami flavor from the beef, garlic ricotta, which tasted like it was out of like an Italian pasta dish, but it all blended really well, and we loved it.
Yeah, it was really unusual flavors for a sushi roll, but when you tasted it, you've tried all these flavors before, but the format is completely different, and I think that's what Aya did best. They broke new ground to what I thought you could do with sushi and see at a normal sushi bar, and they're just doing very different things. So while Blue Water took the fundamental things and did great things with them, Aya just went leaps and bounds into new flavor concepts. They'll show you something new when you visit there.
And so that brings us to our number one sushi restaurant in Massachusetts, based on the nominations and voting by our readers. That is Oya in Boston. What can we really say about Oya in Boston?
Oya is, in short, it's sort of on a different playing field than a lot of the other places here. They are really in a sort of different class purely in terms of cost, because there's really no denying it's a high class, fine dining restaurant in terms of sheer cost. We got some samplings from their full tasting course that is at least $250. I think it was $285, and they'll cost you about $20 to $30 per course a la carte. It is definitely a menu that you need to splurge to try, but the one thing we saw was that there's a big difference in the cost, but there's a noticeable difference in the flavor you get from the food.
Yeah, if you are either ludicrously wealthy or are looking to drop $400 on a meal in the near future, go to Oya. Everything we had there was absolutely incredible. Starting from this sort of oyster in the shell with what seemed like cured or fermented watermelon to start off, going into some really, really cool things that they were doing. There was this one sushi dish with this squid ink foam and fried oysters. It's basically biting into like a cloud of slightly bitter squid ink that collapses into the crunch of a really delicious oyster, like nothing I'd ever eaten before.
Yeah.
There was just stuff going on there that I did not know that sushi or food in general could really do.
Like nothing I've ever eaten before is sort of the tagline for what it's like to eat there, because it'll introduce you to ingredients that you've never really been exposed to, and once you have been exposed to, you'll realize, I did not know it could taste like this. We had one of the courses was toro nigiri. It was just fish with a little bit of wasabi on a rice roll, and you eat it, and as you put it, it was just dunking on the rest of the competition by showing off how delicious this fish is and how big a difference there is between their rice and everyone else's rice.
Yeah, for sure. Like there were some dishes that really just sort of showed off the techniques and the creativity. They do foie gras sushi with a chocolate sauce. They did yellowfin with a banana pepper mousse, just crazy stuff. But then there were a few, like the toro and the salmon that we had, that were just sort of demonstrating like the quality of the materials that they're working with, like fish that just sort of melts in your mouth in this buttery way. That even at really good sushi restaurants we visited, you just didn't really get that.
Yeah, we talked to the chef Nathan Gold, who talked about they scour the globe for the best ingredients, and they'll definitely go local for a lot of strong local ingredients. But he said they're getting salmon from New Zealand. They are going to the very best places because he said they're going to find this salmon that when you look at it, it looks like it's marbled like a fine steak, and that's the sort of stuff you're getting there. It's way above everything else in terms of cost. So there's a clear distinction between kind of an everyday meal and a once in a maybe lifetime meal. And while we're not saying that like, oh, this is the best sushi you get every day, that if you're going for a one-time experience and there is one piece of sushi that you could get, I would go to Oya.
For sure. So this has been Best of Mass Sushi with MassLive. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll be able to check out some of these great restaurants soon.